you're probably not unhappy. And that is exactly the problem. You're not desperate. You're not in crisis. Your life works. You have the job, you have the phone, you have the show at night, you have the weekend. Nothing hurts enough to make you change anything. And that's how it got you. Let me tell you a scene Nietzsche wrote more than 100 years ago, because it's about you, and its ending is terrifying. A man named Zarathustra comes down from the mountain after 10 years alone. He arrives at a square full of people and offers them the highest thing he has. He speaks of the overman, of what a human being can still become. He speaks of greatness, of self-overcoming, of creating your own values. And the crowd laughs at him. So Zarathustra changes strategy. He says, "Fine, then let me speak of the most contemptible thing there is. Let me speak of the last man." And he describes him. The last man is the one who no longer desires anything great, who abandoned the regions where life was hard because it was cold there, who has a little pleasure for the day and a little pleasure for the night, who becomes neither poor nor rich because both are too much trouble, who has invented happiness, says Nietzsche. And he blinks. And then comes the part that chills you. The crowd, which had laughed at the overman, starts to shout, but not in horror. They shout in request. "Give us this last man," they beg. "Turn us into these last men." They heard the description of the emptiest possible life, and they wanted it. Nobody was forced. There was no tyrant, no chain, no violence. People chose. They chose the lukewarm over the intense, the safe over the alive, the small pleasure over the great and difficult thing. And that's what this video is going to do to you over the next 20 minutes. Show you 7 brutal truths about the last man, and exactly where he has already entered your life. And I need to warn you about one thing. This is the most uncomfortable video I've made, and not because it attacks anyone. It's because it has no external enemy at all. In the last video, the enemy was other people pulling you down. Here, there are no others. Here, there's only you, the couch, and an entire life going by slowly while nothing hurts enough for you to react. If you want to feel good today, close this video. No hard feelings. There's no lap here. There's a forge. First truth. Nietzsche wasn't afraid of the monster. He was afraid of the comfortable man. Think about who you consider a dangerous person. You probably thought of the cruel one, the violent one, the unscrupulous climber. Nietzsche didn't. What kept him awake wasn't the evil man. It was the lukewarm man, the one who harms nobody, who also does nothing, who crosses 70 years without ever having risked anything, wanted anything strongly, or created anything. And the reason is simple and implacable. The evil man still has force. Badly aimed force, but force. He still wants something. The lukewarm man wants nothing. And from someone who wants nothing, nothing is born. The last man is not a villain. That's the point. He's kind. He's reasonable. He recycles. He's polite in traffic. He bothers nobody. And that's exactly why no one sounds the alarm when he takes over a life. There's no symptom, no pain, no crisis. That's why he's the most dangerous ending, because he doesn't look like an ending. He looks like stability. The first truth, then, the opposite of a great life is not a tragic life. It's a comfortable one. Tragedy at least indicates that somebody wanted something. And look at how this inverts everything you were taught. The question you learned to ask about your life is everything okay? And if the answer is yes, you move on, reassured. Nietzsche would say that's the wrong question, and that it is precisely the trap. The right question is a different one, and far more uncomfortable. Do I still want something enough to accept suffering for it? A life can pass every "is everything okay" test and still never have happened. Second truth. You didn't choose this all at once. You chose warmth 1,000 times. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to become the last man. Nobody signs that contract. Nietzsche describes the process with a sentence that sounds harmless and is devastating. The last man abandoned the regions where life was hard because it was cold there. Notice that it isn't one choice. It's thousands of tiny choices, each one reasonable, each one in the direction of the warmer, the easier, the less uncomfortable.
You didn't give up on your project. You just postponed it that exhausting week. And the next one. You didn't give up on the hard conversation. You just let it go this time, because it wasn't the moment. You didn't give up on the body, the idea, the move to another city, the book. You just kept choosing every day to stay where it's warmer. And here's the cruelty. Every one of those choices was right in isolation. Resting was right. Avoiding the conflict that day was right. Staying was right. Only when you add up 10 years does the shape appear. And by then it's too late to remember on which day exactly you became someone else. Nobody gives up on their own life. People simply choose the blanket, over and over, until they can no longer get up. And notice why this one is so hard to catch in time. A collapse announces itself. It makes noise, it hurts, it forces a reckoning. A drift announces nothing. It happens at a speed slow enough that no single day looks different from the one before it. You can only see it by comparing yourself to who you were 5 years ago, and almost nobody does that on purpose. The second truth, then. You won't find the day you gave up because it doesn't exist. There were 1,000 days on which you chose warmth, and the cold was where your life was. Third truth. A little pleasure for the day, a little pleasure for the night. That's the most disturbing sentence in the text because Nietzsche wrote it in 1883 with no idea what he was describing. The last man has his little pleasures, nothing excessive, nothing dangerous, measured doses, taken regularly, always with an eye on health. He isn't a scandalous addict. He's a well-behaved user. Now look at your last week, honestly. How many hours were anesthesia? Not work, not real rest, not chosen pleasure. Anesthesia. The phone you pick up without deciding to pick it up. The next video that starts on its own and you don't stop it. The late-night scroll, whose content you don't even remember. The food ordered not out of hunger. The weekend drink that isn't a celebration, it's a switch. Nobody is calling you sick.
The point is different and finer. Those things don't harm you. They do something worse. They keep you exactly where you are, without enough suffering to make you want to leave. Pain would make you change. Boredom would make you change. But the little pleasure taken every 3 hours kills the pain and kills the boredom, and along with them, kills the only thing that would get you off the couch. The third truth, then. The enemy of your life isn't the scandalous vice. It's the small dose taken regularly that makes you endure a life you shouldn't be enduring. Notice the difference between a vice and an anesthetic. A vice destroys, and by destroying, it eventually forces the person to face it. An anesthetic destroys nothing. It preserves.
It keeps everything exactly as it is, indefinitely. And that's why it's far harder to drop. Because the day never comes when it charges you in a way you can't ignore. If that one hit you, if you recognized your own late-night scroll in that description, hold on, because the next one is worse. Fourth truth. You stopped suffering, and you stopped desiring along with it. Here's the price nobody told you about, and it's the heart of this video. When Zarathustra describes the last man, he puts in his mouth a question that is the saddest thing in the whole book. The last man asks, "What is a star?" He isn't being ironic. He genuinely no longer knows. The word has lost its meaning for him. He has no star, nothing distant and high worth crossing the cold for. And when someone speaks of one, he doesn't understand the question. He just blinks. And that's how the anesthesia collects. Because it isn't selective. You can't switch off only the pain. The same button that switches off suffering switches off desire. Because both come from the same place, the capacity to feel intensely. Take the test right now. Answer in one sentence to yourself. What is the great thing you want? Not what would be nice to have, not the lottery fantasy. The thing for which you'd accept being cold, being misunderstood, working 5 years without applause. If you couldn't answer within 10 seconds, that's the diagnosis. It isn't laziness. It isn't lack of focus. It isn't lack of discipline. It's that your capacity to desire was sedated, along with everything that hurt. The fourth truth, then, the absence of pain is not the sign that your life is going well. When you can no longer name one great thing you want, you're not at peace. You're anesthetized. If that's the one that hurt, write 3 words in the comments. I still want. Fifth truth. A little poison now and then gives pleasant dreams. Nietzsche continues the description, and it gets darker. He says, the last man takes a little poison now and then because it gives pleasant dreams, and much poison at the end for a pleasant death. This isn't about substances. It's about everything we take, knowing it does harm, in an administered dose, to make bearable a life that shouldn't need to be made bearable. The relationship you know isn't right, but that fills the silence. The job you hate on Tuesdays and defend at dinner parties. The conversation you haven't opened in 4 years because opening it would be worse. The city, the circle, the routine you keep not because you chose it, but because dismantling it is work. All of those are doses. None of them kills you today. All of them mean You don't have to change today. And the final part of the sentence is the most brutal. And much poison at the end for a pleasant death. Nietzsche is saying that this life ends consistently with what it was. No revolt, no shout, nothing. Someone who spent 70 years avoiding discomfort is not going to find courage in the last room. The fifth truth, then: poison in a small dose isn't what kills you. It's what convinces you every single day that nothing needs to change today. And the sum of those days is your life. Sixth truth. And here's the part you do to yourself. Nietzsche writes that among the last men, whoever feels differently goes voluntarily into the madhouse. Notice the word, voluntarily. Nobody drags anyone. The person turns himself in. Look at how this works today, because it's exactly the same. When someone shows too much intensity, what happens? It becomes a joke. Whoever devotes himself deeply to something is called obsessed. Whoever speaks passionately about a project is embarrassing. Trying too hard, caring too much, taking things too seriously, all of that became a reason for shame. Constant irony became the only socially safe posture, because whoever never takes himself seriously can never be humiliated. And so you learned to police yourself. You shrink your own enthusiasm before speaking about it. You put a, "I don't know, it's silly, but," in front of the thing that matters most to you. You joke about your own dream before someone else does. That's the voluntary madhouse. You didn't need anyone to silence you. You learned to find ridiculous the only part of you that was still alive. The sixth truth, then: the last man doesn't forbid intensity. He turns it into shame. And so each person commits himself, alone, and calls it maturity. And notice the real cost of that. Because it isn't social, it's internal. When you learn to laugh at what you want before anyone else does, you're not only protecting yourself, you're teaching yourself that it isn't serious. Do that for a few years, and the desire stops showing up, because it learned it isn't welcome here. It isn't that you stopped having dreams, it's that you trained the part of you that dreams to stay quiet, and it obeyed. Seventh truth. And now everything turns over. After 6 truths, the easy way out would be, so destroy everything. Quit the job, burn the routine, disappear. Do something radical tomorrow morning. That's wrong, and not out of prudence. It's wrong because it's the same anesthesia in different clothing. The dramatic explosion is just another little pleasure. It gives a strong sensation for 3 days, and then returns you exactly where you were, only with more problems. Whoever does that didn't escape the last man. He just switched doses. Nietzsche's way out is different, and it's harder precisely because it's quieter. He closes Zarathustra's speech with the sentence that answers everything. One must still have chaos within oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Pay attention to what that means. Chaos here isn't destruction. It's the raw material, the restlessness, the unresolved desire, the force that doesn't fit, the dissatisfaction you've been trying to sedate for years. Everything the little pleasures exist to silence. And the proposal is this. Instead of anesthetizing that chaos, you use it as fuel for one thing. A star. Something high, distant, difficult, that you chose, and for which you accept being cold. Notice it isn't about being productive, and it isn't about suffering for its own sake. It's about having a what for. Because the instant you have a star, discomfort stops being an enemy to be eliminated and becomes the toll on a road you want to travel. The same difficulty that today sends you reaching for your phone starts to have meaning, and the little pleasure loses its power over you, not because you became an ascetic, but because something stronger is pulling. The last man asks, "What is a star?" and blinks. Nietzsche's answer is that a star is what makes the cold worth it, and that you don't need to be a genius or a hero to have one. You only need to stop sedating the part of you that still wants. The seventh truth, then, the opposite of the last man, isn't the violent man or the busy man. It's the man who still wants something great enough to choose the cold. And notice that one is enough. You don't need to revolutionize your entire life or have an answer for everything. One star, a single one, already reorganizes the rest by itself, because from it onward, the hours start to have a north. Let's hold all seven before the fire dies down. The first, Nietzsche didn't fear the monster. He feared the lukewarm man, because from someone who wants nothing, nothing is born. The second, you didn't give up in one day. You chose warmth 1,000 times, and each time it seemed reasonable. The third, the enemy isn't the scandalous vice. It's the small dose that makes bearable what shouldn't be. The fourth, the anesthesia isn't selective. Switching off pain, you switched off desire. That's why you can't name your star. The fifth, poison in a small dose doesn't kill you. It convinces you that nothing needs to change today. The sixth, intensity became shame, and you commit yourself alone. You call it maturity. And the seventh, one must have chaos within to give birth to a dancing star. The way out isn't destroying anything. It's having a what for. Nietzsche wrote this sick, nearly blind, writing books almost nobody bought, in cheap, rented rooms across half of Europe. He had every reason to choose comfort, and had practically no comfort available. But notice what he never lost: the capacity to want something great. That was all he had, and it was enough to produce a body of work that shakes the planet 100 years after his death. He isn't asking you to suffer. He's asking you not to die lukewarm. So this week, one task. It's simple to understand and hard to do, the way Nietzsche liked it. Identify your dose. You know what it is. It's the thing you do automatically, without deciding, the moment discomfort appears. The phone in your hand, the app opened, the glass, the next episode, the scroll. And cut it for 7 days. Not forever, 7 days. Then pay attention to what rises when the anesthesia leaves. It's going to be uncomfortable, and that's the point. Underneath the boredom that will appear is something you haven't listened to in a long time. It might be a sadness that needed looking at. It might be a justified anger. And it might be, and this is what we're hunting, an old desire you sedated because it would be too much work. Write down whatever appears. That's your chaos. It's what stars are made from. And one serious thing, because this channel doesn't play with this. If, when the anesthesia goes, what appears isn't boredom or desire, but a heavy emptiness that's lasted weeks, a sadness that won't lift, or if the dose you identified is a substance you can no longer step away from on your own, that isn't philosophy, and it isn't solved by a video. That calls for real help, a professional or a person you trust. Seeking it is no weakness at all. It's exactly the courage this whole video is asking of you, aimed at the right place. And now tell me, which of the 7 burned you deepest? Not the prettiest one, the one that left you uncomfortable, the one you already started arguing against in your head while I was talking. And answer the other one, which is the one that really matters. What is your star? Write it in the comments in one sentence. If you can write it, you still have chaos within you. If you freeze while writing it, now you know what the work is. If this video lit something, leave a like. That's how it finds someone who is, right now, phone in hand, postponing their own life without noticing. And subscribe, because here we don't seek comfort, we seek fire. And every week I come back with more. Become who you are. And don't ask what a star is. Choose yours and cross the cold.